Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I cannot believe I'm saying this already, but we are up to day 12 of my Bookmas. So this is the last video I'll be posting as part of my little Bookmas journey this year. And honestly, it has been very hard to get out 12 videos and get them edited every day and everything like that. But I have really enjoyed doing this, and I think that I'll do it again in the future for sure. And I hope that you guys have had just as much fun watching these videos as I have making them, because I want to put out videos that you guys enjoy too. For this video, I'm going to be going through all of the book releases that I'm very excited to come out in 2024. I made a video like this on my page a few months ago, but it was like book releases for the end of this year and then a couple in 2024. But in this video, I'm focusing primarily on book releases in 2024, obviously because it is the end of the year now. And since I filmed that video, there has been a lot of different book announcements, so there's definitely a lot more that I've added to this list. So I have 12 books to go through in this video that I'm very excited for. I will be going through them in order, and a little disclaimer is that some dates will definitely be wrong for this. The release dates are kind of different around the world, and I'm going with the Australian release dates, and often books are released in Australia a week later than other places in the world like the US or UK, so these dates could just be a few days wrong. But with all that being said, let's just get straight into it. So the first book that I'm very excited to come out in 2024 is actually coming out on the 26th of January, which is 2 days away, but only on Kindle. And then in Australia, it's coming out on the 3rd of January in the paperback. So that is Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. I will be buying this book on my Kindle in 2 days, but just for the sake of this video, we're going to say that it comes out in January because that's when it technically comes out in Australia. This is the sequel to Divine Rivals, and Divine Rivals was one of my top favorite reads of 2023. I absolutely loved it. I say this all the time. It was just so easy to read, so magical, so page turning, and the relationship in the book was just perfect. Like, I don't think I've ever seen such a good romance in a book, and it's also like a romantasy, so the world that they live in this book is very magical and like fairy tale like. And I'm pretty sure book 1 ended on like a cliffhanger. I actually have to refresh my memory because I don't really remember. So I am beyond excited to go into the second book. I think it's going to be an amazing read, and I'm just really hoping that it gives the same feeling that Divine Rivals did. I feel like it's going to be better. The next book I'm very excited to come out in 2024 is Bride by Ali Hazelwood, and this is due to come out on the 6th of February. So this is actually a vampire romance, and it's the first sort of romance that Ali Hazelwood has ever written like this, and I'm so excited to see her writing and how she writes a book that's completely different from her other books. So other books are kind of like cutesy, like rom-com sort of romances that are very science-based, because I think she's a woman in STEM herself, so she writes that a lot into her romances. But with this one in particular, because it's a vampire romance, I feel like it's just going to be completely different from what she normally writes, and I'm very excited to see a slightly different genre from her. And I do have really high hopes for this book. Maybe I shouldn't, because I don't really know how I feel about Ali Hazelwood's writing in general. I didn't like The Love Hypothesis from her, but I loved Love Theoretically, so it's kind of gonna be a hit or miss for me. The next book is actually coming out on the same day, on the 6th of February, and that is The Teacher from Frida McFadden. Again, I say this all the time, I have read almost every single one of Frida McFadden's psychological thrillers, obviously the ones that she's released up until this point. I have loved like almost every single one of her psychological thrillers. I think the way she writes thrillers is so amazing and like captivating, and they always just hold my attention from the beginning. I'm hooked from the beginning, and most of the time I will sit and read her books in one sitting. So I'm just very excited to have another thriller release from her, because I know that I'm absolutely gonna love this book. And she's actually releasing 2 books next year as of right now, and I'll talk about the other one later on. The next book is probably my most anticipated release for the whole year, but it's also my most like nerve-wracking release. I don't know how this book's gonna go, and that is Magnolia Park's Into the Dark, and that is due to be released on the 14th of February, which, why is it getting released on Valentine's Day when it's probably most likely going to break our hearts? Like, I'm a little bit nervous for that. This is the 5th book in the Magnolia Parks universe. I think it's also the last book in the Magnolia Parks side of the universe. I think there's going to be more Daisy Hates books, but I think this is the last Magnolia Parks book, and I'm very nervous to see where this story is going to go, because I have like specific wants and needs out of this book, and I'm just not going to get my hopes up, because I feel like the things that I want to come out of this book just aren't going to happen, because I think Jessa Hastings has said herself that she doesn't want to write just happy endings all the time, and that's what I'm really nervous about, because I'm so connected to these characters. I feel like I know them as real people. Like, they genuinely feel like family reading those books, and I think we are all very nervous for this book. I am not a BJ girl whatsoever. I think there's a few people that love BJ, but I just cannot stand him, and I would just rather them not end up together. The next book is coming out on the 5th of March, and that is Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage. This is the sequel to Done and Dusted, which I read a few months ago, and I did really enjoy the book. It's like a small town romance, it's cowboy vibes and everything like that. But the one thing that I didn't like about this book that I wasn't expecting was all of the smut, because I feel like there was no actual chemistry between the characters, and in almost every single chapter there was a spicy scene, and I'm just not the type of person that enjoys reading books like that. So I gave that book like 3 stars, but I do feel like it has potential to be a really good series. So I am still very excited for the second book. The covers are also gorgeous in this series. Like, I've never seen such gorgeous book covers. Like, they are just so fun. Like, they look so vintage in a way. The next book is coming out on the 2nd of April, and that is the reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. So I believe this is like a YA thriller, and I only actually heard about this as I was researching books coming out next year just to write my list, and I was like automatically intrigued by this book. I think anything that Holly Jackson puts out there is really good, fast-paced and easy to read. I've only read the first book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy, and I definitely need to reread that so I can continue that trilogy and finish it. But I've also read 5 Survive from her, and that kept me hooked from the beginning. Like, even though I kind of guessed the ending of that book, it still did keep me on the edge of my seat, and I still absolutely loved it. So I know that I'm absolutely gonna love this book as well. Her books are just so easy to read. Like, I can't explain it, but it seriously just feels like you're reading like 10 times faster when you're reading her books. Coming out on the 16th of April, we have Taming VII by Chloe Walsh, which is the 5th book in the Boys of Tolman series. I'm not sure how many books this series is supposed to have, but I know that this is Claire and Gibbsy's book, and I'm so beyond excited to see their story. I've actually only read the first 2 books in that series so far, but I'm definitely going to read the next 2 before Taming VII comes out, obviously, because those books are everything. The first 2 books in that series were both 6-star reads. Like, I don't know what Chloe Walsh puts into her writing, but again, it's so fast-paced and so easy to read, even though most of the books in the series are over 800 pages each, which sounds really shocking and insane, but when you're actually reading it, it just doesn't feel that long. And I always say, like, it's a rugby romance, but it's also just so much more than that. Like, that series is just everything to me. The found family in that series is the best found family I've ever read in a series, and I don't think anything will ever top the found family in that series because of how much depth the characters have and how much the characters have been through to then have that like family that comes together. Okay, I apologize if the camera's moved a little bit. My battery just died, so I just had to change it, and I think the camera's like slightly moved. The next book I'm very excited for is Funny Story by Emily Henry, which is due to be released on the 23rd of April. I've only read 2 of Emily Henry's books, but that being said, I've absolutely loved both of them. Her books are romances, but there's so much more than that because there's always like a backstory to the characters, and there's always a reason for why things are happening in her books. They're not just like light-hearted, like easy palette cleansers. I feel like they're always a little bit deeper than that, and that's something that I really love about her writing. I just love the characters she creates, and I definitely want to read a couple more of her books before that one in particular comes out. I really need to read People We Meet on Vacation and Book Lovers by her. The next one I'm very excited about is Daydream by Hannah Grace, which is due to come out on the 5th of June, and this is the 3rd book in the Maple Hills series, so it comes after Icebreaker and Wildfire, and I absolutely loved Icebreaker and Wildfire. I did not expect to love those books because I put Icebreaker off for so long thinking that it would just be full of smut and have no storyline, but I actually thoroughly enjoyed both of those books. I think they are just so easy to read, and again, the found family in this series is amazing, and that's why I'm so excited for Daydream to come out, because we see so much of Henry in the first 2 books, and we're finally getting Henry's story. This is what everyone's been wanting since the beginning, and I'm honestly just excited to see how he's going to be in a relationship with someone, because if you know Henry in the books, he is very like straight to the point. Like, if he doesn't like something about you, he will just tell you straight up. So I'm very excited to see how his personality is portrayed within this book and how he is in a relationship. The next book is the other Freedom McFadden book that I was talking about, which is the 3rd book in the Housemid series. So it's called The Housemid is Watching, and it is due to come out on the 11th of June. When I tell you I'm beyond excited for this book book to come out, because The Housemaid and The Housemaid's Secret were the first books that I ever read from Frida McFadden, and I actually saw before I've read 17 Frida McFadden books this year, and they're the two books that got me into her books because they were just that amazing and just kept me hooked from like the first line of the book. And I'm just so excited to see where this series goes. I was not expecting to get a third book in this series, but obviously I'm not complaining. I know I'm absolutely gonna love this book. I feel like it's got a very high chance to become my favorite book out of all of her books. Okay, we have 2 books to go. So the next one is Reckless by Lauren Roberts, which is the second book that comes after Powerless, and it is due to come out on the 4th of July, but I think that's just like a date that they like kind of set at the beginning, and then it could change. When I tell you, I adore Powerless with everything. I say this like in every single video, but Powerless is like the Hunger Games, but they have powers. And if you still haven't read this book, what are you even doing? Please like drop everything you're reading and go and read that book, because I promise you it will be amazing and it will live up to the hype, because I was really scared it wouldn't live up to the hype, but honestly it surpassed that for me. It became like my top favorite book ever. It's definitely my favorite fantasy ever, and I honestly think that it's just the kind of book where like anyone would enjoy it. Like even if you're not a fantasy reader, I still think that you could go into this book and really enjoy it, because there is like a romance aspect of it as well, and the enemies to lovers in the book was just chef's kiss. Like honestly, one of the best enemies to lovers I've ever read in a book, and it's gonna be even better in the second book. Like with the way the first book ended, the second book's gonna be even better. And the last book coming out in 2024 that I'm very excited about doesn't actually have a specific date. That is Nothing Like the Movies by Lynn Painter. So this is the sequel to Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, which is one of my favorite rom-coms. I absolutely loved that book, and I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did, because going into that book I knew that it had so much hype around it, and I just wasn't expecting it to be anything different. But I just loved everything about it. I loved the characters, I loved the relationship, and it's one of those books where you know the 2 main characters are going to be soulmates and they're going to be together forever if they were real people. And I love that our main character Liz just wanted a relationship like what she saw in like all of those movies she saw growing up, because like don't we all grow up and look at romance movies and think that we want that in the future? But yeah, that was the last book that I'm very excited to come out in 2024. I feel like it's going to be an amazing reading year, and I just know there's going to be so many more books that are going to be announced that are coming out in 2024. Like I think the 3rd book in like the 4th Wing series is supposed to come out too, but they haven't got like a date or name or anything for that. But I think that'll probably be announced in the first few months of 2024, and I'm very excited to see where that series goes as well. Also the 3rd book in the Crescent City series by Sarah J Maas. I know a lot of people are very excited about that. I just haven't read many of her books yet, so I'm not excited for that one myself. But yeah, let me know in the comments what book you're the most excited about to be released in 2024, because I am excited about all of these equally. And as I said, I think it's going to be an amazing reading year. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and thank you to everyone that has stayed and watched every single one of my Bookmas videos. It has truly helped me out so much, and I'm so glad that I have people enjoying them as much as I am filming them. But with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.